When a society waters down the notion that there is a God, we see the effects in politics, our life choices, and what some originally thought of as freedom from religious rules. And the nation our founding fathers gave us rapidly declines to the point of despair. There is a consensus among many that our nation has eroded to a dangerous point, and the facts you will soon see will confirm this.
Back when Jesus was here, the world's population was only about 250 million. It looks like the whole population growth curve started about 4,400 years ago. Now, if you believe in evolution, you got a problem. You think man's been here for 3 million years. In 3 million years, the population would have grown. Right now, there'd be about 150,000 people per square inch. That would be crowded. No, man's not been here for millions of years. God told Adam to replenish the earth, fill it with kids, have lots of kids, okay? He formed the world to be inhabited, Isaiah 45 tells us, okay? But we got people on the other side who think we should reduce the population of the earth. That's Satan's plan, of course. Jacques Cousteau said we need to eliminate 350,000 people a day. Ted Turner said we need a 95% decline in populations. Okay, Ted, you first. These guys for the New World Order want to reduce the population of the world to 500 million. Bill Clinton signed the Biodiversity Treaty that said we need to reduce the Earth's population to 1 billion. They've already got the Earth divided up into regions. The red areas are for animals only. No human beings allowed. Treaty's been signed. It just hasn't been enforced yet. Coming soon, though. Peter Singer is the guy who wants to have abortions after the baby's born. You got 28 days to decide if you want to keep it. He said, Christianity is our foe. If animal rights is to succeed, we must destroy the Judeo-Christian religious tradition. Like animals have more rights than humans. Prince Philip said, if I could be reincarnated, I would wish to return to Earth as a killer virus to lower human population levels. Nice guy, Phil. United Nations said, food is power. We use it to control behavior. We do not apologize. There are people who want to reduce the population of the Earth. Go outside of Atlanta, Georgia, to the town of Elberton. Go north about 7 or 8 miles on Highway 77, and look off to the right. You'll see a place over there where they teach you should reduce the population of the planet. If you look off to the right, you'll see these stones over here. It looks like Stonehenge. You drive over there, it's the weirdest place, middle of nowhere. You get up and you read them, and it says in 12 languages, the 10 Commandments for the New World Order. Commandment number 1, maintain humanity under 1/2 billion. Well, now hold on a minute. There's already 6 billion people here. How do they propose to maintain humanity under 1/2 billion? Looks to me like there's going to have to be a dramatic drop in population. That's exactly what the devil wants. Back in the 1950s, the average textbook in America had very little evolution. 2,000 or 3,000 words was all. 1957, the Russians beat us in the space race by launching Sputnik, and Americans panicked. How many of you are old enough to remember the panic in America when the Russians were winning the space race? I mean, they had articles in Life magazine, how you can survive fallout. They said the Soviets are ahead of us in science because the Soviets teach evolution. We don't teach it in our schools. I mean, they had articles on how to build your own bomb shelter. People were building them in their backyard, okay, to survive nuclear fallout. Wait a minute. The Soviets are ahead in science because they teach evolution. What does evolution have to do with putting up a satellite? Well then, in 1959, it was the 100-year anniversary of Darwin's book coming out. And in 1959, Eisenhower asked Congress for $1 billion to push more evolution into the school system. And he got it. American textbooks were rewritten in the late 50s and early 60s to include more evolution. They called it the Cold War Reconstruction of American Science Education. Our whole science curriculum and other curriculums were rewritten to make sure evolution was taught. And by 1963, the average textbook had 33,000 words about evolution. By 1963, prayer was taken out of our school system. Anybody remember that? Madalyn Murray O'Hair? By 1963, we started to see a great rise in premarital sex for every single age bracket. We saw a great rise in sexually transmitted diseases for 10 to 14-year-olds. We saw a great rise in unwed birth rates, a 550% increase in pregnancies. The difference is being aborted. Now, 1/3 of all the kids born at the hospital are born to a couple that are not married. Illegitimate children. 1/3 of them. Now listen carefully. If you are one of those, this is for you. Timothy was a half-breed that never should have been born. Timothy's mommy was Jewish. His daddy was Greek. The Jews weren't supposed to marry anybody but Jews. Mama disobeyed. Timothy's the result. But he wanted to serve God, and God said, I'll take you, son. He wrote 2 books in your Bible. So if your parents messed up, you shut your mouth and quit your whining, and you go serve God with your life, okay? There's no excuses. God will use anybody, okay? The number of unmarried couples living together has increased radically since 1963. God's word hasn't changed. He said, thou shalt not commit adultery. He said, whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Jesus said, if you even look and lust, you've committed adultery already in your heart. By the way, ladies, that's why it's important how you dress, okay? My daddy always said, if you're not in business, don't advertise. Okay. Divorce rates have gone crazy in this country. Child abuse is up 2,300%. Illegal drug use up 6,000%. Violent crimes nearly 1,000% increase. I'm not that old, you know, but I remember the days when you did not have to lock your house. Anybody remember those days? And you left the keys in the ignition all the time. You never took them out because you might lose them. And you go to the average high school, and half the pickup trucks in the parking lot had a loaded rifle hanging in the back window. And nobody got shot in school in those days, did they? You probably didn't hear about this, but the kids at Columbine High School that shot everybody, you know, were very strong believers in evolution. They did the shooting on Hitler's birthday on purpose. They shot Isaiah Shoals just because he was black. Hitler hated black people, so did they. This was evolution-motivated shooting. And right after the shooting, Rosie O'Donnell got on her TV program and said, see, we need more gun control. Rosie, those kids broke 18 gun laws going into that school. I don't think 2 more gun laws would have slowed them down. SAT scores have plummeted since 1963. Twice in the last 40 years, they have dumbed down the test. They made the test dumber, so the scores would go back up. Teen suicide rate's gone crazy. Now look, if I told you if you kissed a frog, it would turn to a prince. You say, no, frogs don't turn to princes. How many of you ladies got your husband by kissing a frog? Come on, let's see. Looks like only about 3, okay? See, it doesn't happen very often, but in the textbooks it does. We started off like an amoeba and slowly evolved to a frog and very slowly became a prince. It's the same fairy tale. See, if the frog turns to the prince quickly, we all know it's a fairy tale. But if the frog turns to the prince slowly, oh, now that's modern science. No, I'm sorry, that's still a fairy tale, okay? Even more of a fairy tale. The difference, though, is not a kiss. That won't do it anymore. Today, boys and girls, if you want to turn your frog to a prince, you have to have a super-duper special high-powered magic ingredient called billions and billions of years. How many have ever heard that before? Billions of years ago. It's in all the textbooks. It's on TV. It's in the magazines. It's in National Geographic, billions and billions of years ago. They talk about it like some kind of fact of science, you know. Here's a 4th grade textbook. It says, many millions of years ago. Now, wait a minute. If anybody ever says that to me, I say, excuse me, were you there? They'll say, no, of course I wasn't there. And I'll say, now, do you know the earth is millions of years old? Is this really part of science? Is this something we can observe and study and test and demonstrate? They'll say, well, no, but everybody believes the earth is millions of years old. No, they don't. Most Americans believe the earth is less than 10,000 years old and God made it. Less than 15% are evolutionists or atheists in the test that they take, in the surveys. The majority of Americans do not believe the earth is millions of years old. Now, it's true that slightly more than half of the scientists believe in evolution. That's true. I agree. But that doesn't make it true. It's true they believe it, but what they believe is not true. See, just because a bunch of scientists believe something, it doesn't mean anything. There was a time when the scientists thought the planets go around the earth. The scientists used to teach a big rock will fall faster than a little rock. They used to teach if you're sick, you have bad blood. Take out your blood and you will get better. There were special places all over America to get your blood taken out. You could tell where they were because they had a white pole with a red stripe around it. The barber was the bloodletter. And right beside George Washington, when they were bleeding him to death, was a Bible that told him, the life of the flesh is in the blood. Man, if they'd have read that verse, he might still be alive today. Well, he would have lived longer, okay? But listen, if you went scuba diving and you found a treasure chest full of gold coins, and I asked you the simple question, when did the boat sink? You say, I don't know. Well, look at the dates on the coins. If there's a coin in that box from 1750, you ought to be able to figure out the boat sank after 1750. How many can figure this out with no help at all? Okay? It couldn't sink before that, could it? You don't poke around in the box and find the oldest coin. You have to find the most recent coin, and that kind of limits when the boat could have sunk. That's called the limiting factor. Did you know there are probably 100 different ways to tell how old the earth is? A lot of them give big numbers, a lot of them give small numbers, but it's the small ones we got to worry about. If you find a dinosaur bone, you should notice two things about it immediately. Number one, it does not talk. Number two, it does not have a date stamped on it. It does not say, made by a dinosaur in 70 million BC in Taiwan. They don't say that, okay? So how do you tell the age of a fossil? How do you tell the age of the earth? How old is this earth anyway? Well, the Bible dates add up about 6,000. Textbook says it's billions. Somebody is wrong. There's a difference between 6,000 and 20 billion. Congress doesn't seem to understand the difference, but there's a difference, okay? We'll talk about that in the next session. How do you show the earth is not billions of years old? But if it is only 6,000 years old like the Bible teaches, that raises some interesting questions. What about the dinosaurs? What about carbon dating? How did the light from the stars get here? What about Grand Canyon? Didn't that take millions of years to form? What about the geologic column? Well, folks, that's why my seminar is about 17 hours long. I am talking as fast as I can go.